Hey, this is Sarah. I just wanted to expand on a reading this week. And the one that I chose this time was September 4th, the evening reading, which is Leviticus 19:36. It says, "You shall have just balances, just weights, a just ephah, and a just hin." So I like that this is taken from the Old Testament. It's a very good order and law that, as far as I understand, the Jewish people, the Israelites, were using as God's orders to provide justice for all. And it made me think about, in the reading through of underneath of it, the commentary and devotion for that, for this one, was just, I think sometimes, every personality is different in the things that we focus on in society or our family or our friends. Bad things that happen or things where we feel like justice needs to be served, and justice does need to be served in all situations. The challenge, I think, for myself is not putting justice over God. And what I mean by that is not that justice is not important and should always be pursued. But at the same time, we have to remember that in this devotional, like he shared, as far as it's easy for us to see the fault in somebody else, kind of where Christ talked about, make sure that you find the plank in your own eye before you point out the speck in someone else's. I think sometimes we tend to decide that somebody else's actions or a corporation or a community or something, some organization or something, they're doing something wrong, right? And we feel like it's unjust and we want justice. And I think that sometimes, for myself, I'm speaking for me here, I need to repent, because part of me swings both ways. At one point, I'll swing one way and I'll say, I really wish, God, that you would take care of this injustice. And you're not doing it right now. I don't see it happening right now. So what the heck, God? What's the matter with you? All right, we need to create some kind of organization or some sort of governmental department needs to take care of this, and we're gonna fight. And as great as that is to want to fight for injustice, at the same time, we're dealing with people. We're not dealing with in our head what should and shouldn't be. And so there's a balance there, because sometimes I will swing that way, and then the other way will be, can't have it at all, I guess, sinners will be sinners, and I'm just as guilty as the next person, and how do I know what I would have done in that situation? And so I jump into both extremes at different times, and I'm sure, I don't know if you can relate to that, but to me it really spoke as far as, we're always going to be dealing with people in these injustices and trying to fight for justice. And because of that, we have to remember that the way that God would have things was way back in the Garden of Eden, and that didn't happen. We chose our own way. We chose our own idea of what was right and wrong in that moment of what we believed was right in Adam and Eve. And so I have to remember that I am no different than Adam and Eve. I'm no different in the sense that I always want to have my own way over God's, and I just naturally have to remember that God's way is not my way, and I never really know what's going on. I tend to overanalyze things in my head and decide this must be what's happening and this is what's going on, so therefore, now I'm really mad. But we never really know the full story or understand. And so yes, we need to pray that God gives us wisdom and understanding. At the same time, we also have to remember that God is in control, and He has our plans laid out, and the plan for society, the plan for a community, a plan for a culture, and the plan for each and every one of us individually. So we have to remember that at the end of the day, it really is up to God, and what we do with that, we need to pray for wisdom, but we can't always have it our way right now, right then. And I think that's where sometimes people become fanatical in a way. It's one thing to fight underground for just causes, and it's another thing to fight with your fist. And I think that that's important to remember, especially in this present culture that we're living in our society and in America. I can only speak for this country. That's the most of the news that I pay attention to. And I have to remind myself of that, because we can allow ourselves to get angry. And yes, anger can be a righteous anger, but sometimes it can also be out of I know better than you, God, and I know how justice needs to be served. And we do not. We have to remember, we do not know more than God. We never, ever will. So praying for humility in those moments, I think, is really important before we decide that we can come up with ideas that God has not thought of yet. That being said, the Bible is full of truths to help us through that, as well as wisdom if we are humble in coming to the Lord and asking Him for His guidance. All right, that's all I'm going to say for that expansion, and I hope you have a great rest of your Saturday, even though this is Friday, September 4th reading that I'm expanding on and read through earlier. Have a great rest of your Labor Day weekend. I will see you tomorrow. This is Sarah. God bless.